Well, doing the 11 o'clock news, I usually didn't get home in Apollo Beach to bed until 12:30 at the earliest, and usually not till 2. And so I was asleep when at 7:33 or whatever it was, the ship hit the bridge. The storm woke me as it came to Apollo Beach about 15 minutes later, and I got up to look out my back window to check on the kinship, which I could barely see. The storm was that severe, and she was secure. And so I went back to bed. And then a few minutes later, my wife came in and said, "Bobby, a ship has knocked down the Skyway Bridge." And I said, "Well, that doesn't surprise me." And I tried to go back to sleep. And then I'm lying there and I'm remembering, wait a second, you're a newsman. You're the nautical newsman. Get out of bed. The reason why it didn't surprise me is I noticed when I first sailed under the Skyway Bridge on my way from Philly to Tampa that there was very little fendering around the bridge. So that was my reaction. So I got up, I got dressed, I drove into Tampa. Probably took me about 8:30 maybe by the time I was driving into Tampa. I can't remember whether it was the first time or the second time, because I had to come back and get various changes of clothes, not knowing what the weather was going to be, because we were going to anchor live from the bridge. Anyway, I'm driving through Gibsonton, and the WFLA radio announces the one fatality they have identified, and that's because Greyhound knew which one of their bus drivers was driving the bus. And they identified him as Mike Curtin. And I had to pull over to the side of the road, because Mike was a friend of mine, good friend of mine. In fact, he just done a beautiful oil painting of my boat, gave it to me as a gift just a few days before this terrible disaster. And but frankly, I thought he was an executive with Greyhound. I didn't know he was a bus driver. I found out later from his wife he drove the bus because he was a prolific paperback author and a portrait artist. So he drove the bus to get material for his books. And so then I went on into the station, and that night we went live from the bridge. And I asked my producer, Bill McQueen, who pulled off a miracle getting us live from the bridge that day, I asked him to give me a minute or two at the end of the newscast so I could address the fact that I lost a friend that day, and also make some personal comments about everyone who lost a friend or a loved one that day.